What's up, everyone? It's Joey Blush Response coming at you from Miami. I'm here at Aoud's studio and we're about to do sound and structure. Let's get right into it. So dope. What's up, Aoud?
Hey, thanks for coming, Joey. Nothing much. Here in Miami, seeing my nice friend Joey. It's actually really cool that you like to come back to the Miami roots every so often. I think it's important.
Yeah, I love it here, man. It's really the best. Like, so nostalgic. I've been away too long.
Yeah.
And the weather and the beach, family, the food, everything is just wonderful here.
Yeah, we just ate some amazing Indonesian food. I don't even know what I ate exactly, but I love it.
Yeah, that was dope. Whatever I had like quail egg noodles, and it was really good.
No, it was good. It was really good.
Yeah, man. Tell me about your approach to making SE Mark II.
Ooh. So SE Mark II. So when I started writing SE Mark II, and actually, so yeah, generally speaking, when I write, and like when I wrote SE Mark II, I stopped listening to music for a while before I started writing. I have kind of a weird thing where I can't listen to music in the background so much. It kind of like almost stresses me out or something, as weird as that sounds. Mm-hmm. It's almost as if multiple conversations are going on at the same time right next to me. Mm-hmm. So this is going to sound really weird, but I actually enjoy not listening to music sometimes for like 2 or 3 weeks at a time, mm-hmm. and then coming back to it. So when I wrote SE Mark II, I hadn't been listening to music for a while, and I go through phases where I'll listen to, I feel as if I'm listening to everything that's coming out. I'll even go on Beatport and just look at the most recent releases. And then, and you find some gems eventually when you look enough. And I really enjoy listening to new music because I feel that's part of the dialogue of music. On the other side, though, I also really like not listening to any music before I start writing music, because in a weird way, you're a lot more free because you kind of you work off of this like very abstract shape of what you like or what you want to do or what you're really into. And you're not so obsessed with the most amazing last few tracks you discovered that you might be DJing or just listening to. Because sometimes when you hear really amazing music, it's kind of easy to forget what you're about or what your own personality is about, because you get so excited about that and you're like, so if that track you just listened to had like some crazy, amazing, big, epic, distorted bass, like you're going to sit down and like there's something in your brain kind of pulls you that way. Of course, we all get, inspired by different types of music, but yeah, so SE Mark II, big picture thing. Didn't listen to music for weeks before I started working on that. And that seems to help me a lot and ground me for some reason.
I feel that because definitely there's a bit of monkey see, monkey do with music. And mm-hmm. we all fall into that trap. Like, I gotta make the bangerest banger because I just heard this banger.
Yeah.
And it's even comes out like a pastiche sometimes. So
yeah, of course.
I'm also an isolationist in that respect because I don't want any external influence, and it's hard because I really love music. So oftentimes I feel like I'm missing something, mm-hmm. and I have to go back to it. So I'm totally with you on that. What was how'd you build up the track from start to finish?
Yeah, so that track in specific, so what I did specifically with that track is I actually wrote it using this SEM synthesizer. Mm-hmm. Actually, you want to scoot over a little bit? Yeah, so I started, there's this amazing, it sounds really weird, but I have this, I've played around with some of the clones, the analog ones, and I don't like it as much as this one specific plugin. It's by Arturia, and it's the old one. The new one, maybe I just got used to something about the older one or whatever, and maybe I'm even confused, and for all I know, all they changed is the UI or something, but I really like the older Oberheim SEM, I don't know how people pronounce it, from Arturia, and yeah, so I made a patch on it, and then I created really like a chord progression that's just using maybe just some intervals, like not complicated chords or anything. And I really like chord progressions where you can kind of almost get lost, where after you listen to it for a while, you're not exactly sure where the chord progression begins anymore, sort of, like almost like in a weird way, like shoegaze music kind of has that as a really obvious example. So it started with that synth for sure, which is pad-like, I guess, if you had to say.
It's the main riff, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like distorted and reverby and kind of echoey in a sense. So yeah, I start with that. I usually start without drums, because drums, I'm not amazing at sequencing drums. So I tend to always go for some somewhat simplistic patterns. And then it's very hard to have like interesting melody and other layers on top when your drums are so straight. So I try to avoid drums, and I'll just work with the click basically. But yeah, so it started just with what's really a chord progression. And then once I have that basic core, like, and I have that working, then that's when I feel excited and like more freedom to add other stuff. And then it always starts with one layer for me personally. I don't get excited to add more layers until I feel that I have one thing that's like, yo, this is awesome. I have to feel that way. Otherwise, it's hard for me to get super stoked about something. I'm not the kind of person who just like keep throwing stuff in.
I feel that if you get something that catches you right away, you're like, all right, this is it. Now we can move on.
Yeah.
I also need that too. Like, I'm not going to record something if it's not coming together with the right elements. What's in your studio setup? And we're here in it.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll focus on the things that because I have some new pieces in here, newish pieces. What I use the most, really, I have an analog keys by Electron with the actual keys. I think the desktop version's the analog 4, right? I have the Mark 1 analog rhythm. I love that thing actually, and I know the Electron boxes really well, so for me it's just second nature at this point. And then anyone that uses Electron a lot, because there's so many different ways to do different things, people end up figuring out a few of their own tricks that they kind of use over and over again on the Electron boxes. I really like them a lot. And I'm drawn specifically the most to those Electron boxes because even after all of these, years or whatever, I still haven't, it's gonna sound really funny, but I've never fully wrapped my head around sampling to use it like in meaningfully creative ways. So I always go back to like straight up synthesis, even though the lines are blurred more and more with like all the most recent stuff. But yeah, I always go back to stuff that I can actually have some oscillators and stuff.
I'm with you on that. I'm a synthesis over sampling guy just by nature.
Yeah.
And I love samplers, but I always, I don't know, go back to the synths.
Yeah, because there's like a lot more planning and preparation kind of with the sampling side. Even though there's some brilliant people that just cut stuff up, sample in real time, but I always feel like I have to work so much harder to get that polished and where I really want it to be. And synths give me everything I already care about, kind of, so.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, it's a lot more setup. I usually try to make a whole bank of samples ready to go and then use the sampler.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I also have a Moog DFAM. I have an Arturia Micro Brute. Oh, I have the Virus TI. That's actually a mainstay. I think it's kind of like oddly trite and maybe overused in a weird way, just because it's been a mainstay in electronic music since like late 90s now in a way. But I do love it, and every time I think I'm kind of over it, I always come back to it, and I always figure out new things to do on it. So and it is really nice having such a full platform of a synth, because it kind of really can do so much. And with all the different modulation options and everything, there's always something you can do with it. And so yeah, no, I always go back to the Virus TI also.
It fucking rules. It's a machine full of surprises for me. Like, I had it for 10 years and I still find new stuff all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
Endless. It's definitely one of the most powerful synths ever made. Although I think the Quantum dethroned it.
Yeah, and I still haven't tried it. So you gotta stop talking to me about it. I'm scared. What if I get one? It'd be super dangerous. But yeah, I almost want to grab this thing just because I love it so much.
Show it off. There's another one here.
Oh yeah.
Oh, but it's also plugged in.
I'll grab this one just because. Yeah, that's how much I like it that I have two. That's kind of ridiculous. I don't have two of anything else, so that must mean something.
That is a real thing.
But yeah,
show it off the camera.
Oh yeah, you probably have the like modular piece with just, I'm guessing, the filter.
The Polyvox filter.
Yeah. So yeah. I never fully understood why they called it acid box or for whatever. Like, it doesn't sound particularly acidy to me, although it can do some resonant stuff, I guess. But yeah, I really love this thing. It's
I think the name being catchy had more to do with anything.
Yeah, the name's not bad, and they called it the 3. I don't know why.
I think they did a couple versions of it.
Okay, it's awesome. I actually really love this synth, and it's gotten me really curious about the Syntrix as well, even though I know they're not technically perfectly related, but Erica as a company, it's made me really curious about them. But yeah, so this box, it sounds excellent, and this is actually the only Polyvox style filter I've ever used in real life, so I don't know if they all do this, but it has a very specific type of harmonic distortion, and the way it adds weight to the bottom, and it also it's weird. Like, it sounds like more, but without mucking anything up or losing clarity. It's very weird. So I use this actually. I process stuff back through it often, and there have been times I use it on everything, so it's kind of weird. I didn't use this specifically on SE Mark II, but on all the newer stuff, it's on there. Like, for instance, that remix I did for Nicholas, this is on every track.
Nicholas Pugaev.
Yeah. And it's weird that a box, because it feels really silly as a musician to get excited about like a low pass.
But it's a really, really good low pass.
Yeah, it's
really
good.
It, most synths have only low pass. Like,
yeah, it's
every musician got excited about it.
Yeah, I guess so. And it has very nice knobs too. But yeah, no, I really love it. The thing I love about it is the sonic character it has. It doesn't hurt the transients. It doesn't hurt the color of the sound. It only adds. Like, I'll put it on anything and it just makes it sound better, which is a very weird thing to say because that's not really a thing, but this thing is kind of like that.
I feel that with Erica products. I got there's something in there, and I noticed it when I had the Polyvox, which I do have, but I have the black quad VCA, and just running stuff through that, just as a VCA, I noticed sounds significantly better than some of my other VCAs. I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing it well.
Well, there's some analog stage, there's some kind of amplification, there's something, and
yeah, they're clever. I've been out to their lab in Latvia. It was a great experience.
Yeah, no, I think they're definitely a cool company, and the Syntrix, I've only watched videos of it, but to me it sounds amazing. I'm under the impression that's like a really formidable, I don't know what to call it, like semi-modular-ish, whatever synth, but I love it. So it seems very cool.
I've only used it a couple times, but it definitely, I mean, I've used the EMS VCS3.
Which is like its daddy or granddaddy, I guess,
100 times, and they don't sound the same at all. They're not meant to sound the same, but I feel the lineage, and that it's a good, a good appropriation of that style and evolution. So I think it's a interesting prospect.
No, that's very cool. There's also, I also have here.
Can I get some water?
Yeah, let me get you some. Here, I got you.
Yeah, bro. Can I just kill the bottle?
Go for it. Just drink all you want.
Okay. My throat's dry today, but I got a negative COVID test yesterday, so.
That's good. It's very good.
Yeah, I love Erica shit. Hope to get more. I just did that Matrix Mixer video. Have you seen that one?
No.
It's like a hardware version, not a modular version. It's a standalone, the Matrix from the Syntrix alone. And you can use it with anything. I mean, it has
so it's like
tracks.
So it's like, because the way the Syntrix works, is it the kind of thing where it's a matrix with two knobs?
It's like Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah, I was gonna say Etch-a-Sketch is exactly how I was gonna describe it. Okay, so then that gives you basically a patch bay for crazy cross modulation and everything.
Yeah, check out the video. I basically did it with like the 16 ins and outs, with 16 different effects in a feedback loop, and then eventually put oscillators in it too and stuff, and it was wild. Dude, there's like 10 hawks flying around.
Oh, they're beautiful.
Yeah, that's crazy. I gotta get some shots of them later.
Yeah, you kind of should. That'd be beautiful B-roll.
Yeah, well, we're gonna do like I'm gonna go over your gear.
Cool.
And intersperse that.
Very cool.
What's your desert island synth?
Honestly, like if I'm desert island, like for deserted island, oh my god, that's so stressful. But if I had to say, it'd probably be the analog keys, but that feels so unfair.
Why?
Just because like there's some, like as much as I love analog, there's still a couple of synths in the computer I really like that I do use a lot.
Which ones?
Vanguard.
Okay.
Yeah, like the really OG REFX one that I think is brilliant. And it sounds like kind of wrong and has aliasing and it has all the problems, which I like. And then also, one I haven't mentioned to you before, but I'm sure you know what it is. And it's probably not that exciting to anybody, but I really like it. Synplant.
Oh, Sonic Charge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool one.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like in vogue or not, but
Doesn't matter.
I love that.
Be in vogue after this talk.
Oh my god. No, I love that thing.
Yeah.
It's funny because what got me.
I think we're a bit dark here.
Oh, we might be a little bit. Oh,
Light.
yeah, I got you. Hold on. We do.
Perfect.
Who? All right, rolling again.
Pretty much.
Cool. Oh yeah. So what I was gonna say was, yeah, because we were talking about all that. Oh yeah. So another thing. So specifically, just to get back 1 second to, you mentioned like the release SE Mark II and stuff. Another thing that I use a lot, which is gonna sound really hilarious, is, and it's actually very annoying because if I start a track in Live, EXS24 is only in Logic.
Oh yeah.
But I use the EXS24, and one of my favorite things to use is the init patch is just like a sine tone.
Do you mean the ES2?
No, I'm talking about the EXS24. It
Okay.
has a sample of like a sine wave or something, and that's the first thing loaded up. But whatever shape it has, it's very, for me, there's a lot of things I can play with, and I distort it and stuff, and then it becomes other things for me.
Okay.
And it's just kind of funny because it's just, like the most daft 1999 eMagic sampler or whatever, but I love it. So yeah, specifically on SC Mark II, there's like a counterpoint thing. They sound almost like bells, or I actually don't know how to describe it, but a very sparse little melody that comes in at some point in the track. That's the XS24, and then the arpeggiated bass line is Vanguard, since we're talking about Vanguard, and the kind of like chordal-ish stuff is the Arturia SEM. And then what else? Yeah, and then the drum. Oh, and then some of the drums, actually, something else that we haven't talked about ever, I just realized, is Reactor.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, so some of the drums are actually from Reactor.
Which ensemble?
I have some really old weird ones.
Okay.
Like that some of them are like really old, and I absolutely love the way they sound.
Like Crypt or Weed Whacker?
So, yeah, I recognize all of those. I have a folder with like a gajillion of them. There's a few different ones. I got to show you sometime. But yeah, there's a few different ones that do just drums, and some of them are really good even for simple things like kick drums and stuff. But yeah, there's like some really weird ones, and they're kind of broken. And then later on, like sometimes, like let's say one of them came out like 98 or something, someone in 2001 will come out like with a slightly better one, right, and stuff. I love that about, and I absolutely love that Native Instruments has kept it all up this long. But yeah, I wish I could remember the names right now. I'd have to look it up later.
Maybe don't give away all the secrets.
Oh, no. No, but they're so cool.
Yeah.
And it's funny because a lot of the ones I really like are literally, if you go all the way back, you sort by date or something. It's like the oldest pages, literally.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just really cool. But yeah, I absolutely love Reactor. And when they came out with that big update a few years ago for Reactor 6, is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's 6.
They started to fill in kind of like a few things and give a lot more options. Obviously, they were also kind of opening themselves up and making the UI a little more like, hey, look, we're like the modular boxes kind of thing, which is cool.
The blocks.
Yeah, that's what they call them, the blocks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the same though. I find those a bit more limiting than the real deal.
Of course.
But I'll tell you what, I learned how to program Reactor, and I wanted to make a drum synth. And I spent like a week kind of designing and halfway refining this drum synth, and then I was like, I could have just made music this whole time. I never went back again.
Oh no, I'm so satisfied by all the ensembles, by all these amazing people that are on there.
Yeah.
That I've never tried making something completely from scratch in Reactor. I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's too much of a headache for me, and there's such crazy ones up there, like stuff you would never imagine to make.
Yeah.
I guess it's a different brain.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's and there's also been some emulations of different things, like even the Virus or old classic Reverb boxes or other things that people make in Reactor. And the cool thing is, even when it doesn't sound like the real thing at all, sometimes it sounds incredibly cool anyway.
Totally.
So yeah, it's neat.
I always figure with those kind of things, like if they're taking the inspiration from, like a Metasonics distortion, then it's going to be crazy. Even though I know it won't sound the same, I'll be like, oh, but it's going to be the vibe.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I love about Reactor. It's like every time I think I need a new plugin, like, I need a new delay. I just want a new delay. I just go search there. I don't have to buy anything. I bought Reactor.
Yeah, for all those time-based and time modulation type effects, actually Reactor does some really cool stuff.
Space Master Reverb is
it's still a classic. Still sounds good. It's funny because Space Master, a lot of ensembles, they like hide it, but they'll use that as their reverb.
Totally.
Like if you dig in, you'll see they just copy and paste it in Space Master, which is really funny.
I mean, if it ain't broke.
Yeah, it sounds great.
It's not going to get better than that. I mean, it goes to show because all the synths that Native Instruments releases, like Monarch and Massive, they're all made in Reactor.
Yeah, for sure. They are actually instruments you pull up inside of Reactor.
Massive is not, but I believe the first Massive was actually made in Reactor.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong. But
I mean, it would make sense.
Yeah.
I'm imagining this part, but if I were Native Instruments, I would want to make tools so that artists can design instruments without, like in-house. I mean, because how many DSP programmers are you going to have that are also musicians? So if you can make a set of tools so that musicians can make their own instruments and effects there and create new products, that makes a lot of sense. So I wouldn't be surprised if they made, I'm imagining it again, but if they made Reactor as an in-house tool, used it to make something like Massive perhaps, and then realized, oh hey, this set of tools, let's just polish it and refine it a bit and then actually ship it out as its own product.
I mean, that's what Nord did with the Nord modular. That's how they were designing the leads. Yeah, and it makes total sense. I wish they released a version 3 of that, speaking of.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Nord instruments growing up. I haven't gone back to them in a very long time. So, but yeah, I still remember very well the Nord lead, and a few of the others. The Nord, I think, yeah, those got used on a lot of tracks for a long time, and I wonder if that's just the natural rotating zeitgeist of stuff, where like sometimes when some synths get used a lot in a few genres all at the same time, then people start to reach for other things. I don't know if it works that way, but
I mean, just by like used market pricing, I'd say they're definitely out of fashion. So is the Virus and all that. But what that means is now whoever's looking for stuff cheap is going to buy those things and make them cool again in 5 years. So that's kind of the beauty of the way this works. Like, because these are incredible machines, the Virus and the Nord and every other virtual analog. I think they don't get enough respect. Speaking of.
Yeah, I'm still really into the. It's crazy to me. Like, I just think about it every so often that the Virus is something that I've been into for over 10 years now, and that's pretty crazy because most synths don't last that long. Definitely,
unless you find your lifer synths. I guess the analog keys is that one for you.
Yeah, I really like the analog keys. I think it goes with a lot of these outboard boxes is just the immediacy, the interface, like how you interface with the actual instrument. Because there might be other things that sound better in different ways and all this stuff, but for me, like the sequencer, the way you dial in patches, all that stuff, if it's laid out in a way that it's intuitive to me and I don't have to think, which is funny for me saying that about Electron, because a lot of times I can't get other musicians into Electron because, like you look at a Moog, everybody knows how that works at this point, but Electron, people are like, ooh, it's like menus and stuff. It doesn't bother me one bit, and I actually think they crushed it on the UI. I love Electron. Like, I still think it's funny how everything is kind of a yes or no question, like in the UI, and how they centered a lot of things around that.
I mean, that's great. To me, it's the best, and just these buttons are so satisfying.
The buttons are they figured that one out really well.
Yeah, it's like so much fun.
Yeah.
Only I'll say the Erica drum sequencer has keyboard keys, like a mechanical keyboard, and it's super fun. I just press them sometimes.
Does it click slightly? Like, does it like an old IBM kind of keyboard?
It's a little more spongy, but it's very satisfying. It's closer to a 909, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Speaking of, you got an alpha bass, and how deep have you dug into your drum?
Yeah, so I've only made sounds in it and played with the sequencer a little bit. It's gonna sound really funny, but the thing I'm obsessed with over the most is specifically like kicks and stuff in it. Just because in like electronic, techno, whatever, you spend a lot of time with the kick, and sometimes kick drums you have to like listen to them for like get really into it, and because every box has a different way for you to make kick drums, and you want something that's going to translate really well and like fit with your music and all this stuff. So I'm in this discovery phase with the alpha bass, and a lot of my obsession is around the kick drum, which sounds really funny because it's a very advanced box for me just to like be making kicks with right now. But no, I've messed with a bunch of other stuff on it. I even loaded up some sounds on it. Also has an SD card for samples and other stuff. It's pretty cool. I put some of the same sounds that I have on my analog rhythm for like layering and stuff in there. I like it. The sequencer has like two different ways it can work. I'm exploring it. The one thing that I know for sure so far is it sounds amazing, but I'm just not used to the interface yet. But I don't think anyone's ever been like, oh yeah, I got a Joe Mox, it's easy to use, right?
Definitely, they're a bit of a heady type of interface.
Yeah, but it does have a lot of immediacy. It does have the knobs there. You do have 16 knobs on it, which helps a lot in the way they're laid out. At first I thought I didn't understand why it was laid out the way it was at first. I thought it was kind of like Creature of Frankenstein layout in a very weird way, because if you look at it, it's kind of like, in a weird way, it's like Roland meets this meets that. But it makes sense. It actually makes sense. Like they clearly thought about it a lot, and they tried to take some of the good stuff out of the other lineage of instruments. But I do like it. It's probably going to be. It's on a lot of my like next stuff. It's probably going to be the drums, basically. But yeah.
So what are you working on right now?
So right now, I'm working on an additional track for an upcoming release that has most of the tracks ready already.
How many tracks are we looking at?
It's like EP style, so it's 3, and I'm writing a 4th track now.
Okay.
And then I'm also going to write. I've kind of had like a concept for another EP since like about mid last year. And I'll be sitting down, and usually the way I work is I work very intensely for a few weeks at a time, because I have to kind of like unplug and disconnect from anything else that's going on. It's been a lot easier lately, obviously, with the world situation, because there is a lot less societal noise in some ways. So yeah, I've just enjoyed getting more into sound design. At the end of the day, and maybe you agree, but when you look at all the time you've spent with music, I'm pretty sure about 90% of my time has been mostly just sound design, exploring sounds, spending time with like instruments in a weird way. And then eventually, once you have a few tools like you're really into, then improvisation becomes easy, and then improvisation becomes writing, basically. But
I'm with you on that. At least in my case, I'm definitely someone who listens for the sounds first, and I kind of realized this in the past few years that I care more about the sounds than the music in a way. And like the things I would like in tracks were not like the hook, it'd be like the moment where they let the delay go crazy.
Yeah, of course. Oh no,
or when the drum does a fill or something like
that. I don't know if this is like really old, right? But are you into Joe Meek at all, or are you familiar with him?
I mean, I've heard of him, but I don't know his stuff.
He was just an early, possibly the earliest truly independent record producer. Mm-hmm. And if you listen to his old records, he was obsessed with like things and sounds of the moon and all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. Oh, is it a little bit dark, by the way?
No, I think it's fine.
You sure?
Yeah, I think the screen itself goes dark.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, so yeah, Joe Meek is interesting because there's been different artists over the years. Like there's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever heard the joke, what would Joe Meek do?
No.
But basically he would distort stuff, Joe Meek, and go crazy compressing stuff. And a lot of his tracks, the beginning, middle, or end, he would underline them with some crazy sound design and like tape loops and crazy stuff like this. And the most famous song that he worked on is by a band called The Tornadoes, and it's called Telstar. And it has like the sound of a satellite going into space or something at the beginning, and it sounds like explosions and crazy stuff. Whatever. The point is, the music that Joe Meek worked on, the sonics were more important and contributed more somehow than the music itself, which is really crazy. Okay. And especially at that time, which I think was like early 60s, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so for me, when I was in college, like I studied music in college, which is kind of funny because you spend a lot of time after unlearning stuff.
Right.
Because it's kind of like useless information, ironically. But I spent most of my time in the recording studio. I spent most of my time in the MIDI lab. Like that's all I cared about was that stuff, like the music technology. and then there were other musicians that I studied with that like didn't even want to know how to use the computer, because there's like a lot of people are weird and computers stress them out, I guess. But I always found the computer incredibly liberating. I can't imagine making music without using some device with a chip in it at this point. It's just the truth. So
I mean, synths are all chips.
At this point, yeah, everything. Yeah, there's no like, there's very few like
discrete circuits.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the computer is a useful but annoying tool in my case. I like love it and hate it at times because I just want to play on stuff that's not related to it, not look at a screen, but it's at the same time I can't divorce myself from it because I need what it does in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I mean, the dream is to not have to use a computer at all. But heck, even at just being a tape recorder, computer's amazing. It's so good at like everything.
You'll never run out of tape.
Yeah, I know, right?
Although I've definitely like filled my hard drive and been doing some projects where I'm in the middle recording and it says your hard drive is full, please clear space. I'm like, no,
yeah.
And the file is all fractalized.
Yeah. There's been periods there's been times that happened to me back in the day where it'd be awful because sometimes you'd record like an hour and a half of something or whatever, and then it would fail because it'd run out of space, and then you'd lose the whole file. Over the years, it got better. I think it got better over time. But yeah, do you remember when? Well, actually, I think does Ableton Live do that now, where it tells you how much disk space you have remaining while you're recording?
Yes, thank God.
Yeah, which is hilarious, but
or thank Monolake because he made Ableton. He's awesome. You get into him much?
No, I have some of their music. I think I have some of their music in my record box, but I'm not sure actually.
Get his album. Oh my God, I'm totally blanking on the name, but it has a red cover. If it comes to me again, I can't remember names of anything anymore.
What was their last release, like in terms of time? What
Monolake did one this year called Archaeopteryx. But the one I'm trying to think of, it has something to do with a city or something.
I gotta hear it.
It's cool, really cool stuff.
Yeah, no, the thing about the name, and I just wonder if like I get confused because there's going back to Reactor, there's a Reactor Ensemble that I'm pretty sure is called Monolake. It just makes like drones and stuff. I don't think it's related to him.
It could be from him. I mean, he made Ableton, and he makes a lot of Max for Live devices. Like the new Pitch Loop 89 is from him. Really? Robert Hankey, and the Granulator, and a couple other things.
Yeah, speaking of Live, I haven't messed with I have Live 11, but I haven't messed with some of the newest stuff. Like they have that a wavetable synth now, and
that's even from 10.
Yeah, that was in 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't messed with it really.
It's cool. I've used it for a couple sounds. I think Saren and I used Wavetable for a couple sounds on some new material we're working on. I really like the hybrid reverb. It's like a combination algorithmic with a convolution you can mix into. So that's cool. And the Pitch Loop 89 is one I honestly haven't used so much, but it's supposed to be like a Publicin Infernal Machine, I believe. Okay. Or maybe a Lexicon Primetime. It's like I
like those things.
Like a glitchy old delay sampler box.
Yeah, the funny thing about those boxes that I always liked was the actual sound it would impart.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't even so much about the delays necessarily.
Oh yeah, I love
even though like short, kind of like 16th note delays always sound really good on those things.
I mean, dude, even like I use a TC2290 recently. It's just incredible sounding. And you think it's just delay, but somehow it has some magic in there.
No, absolutely. Yeah, because it obviously must be a thing because there's a million delays you can pick from.
But not even like just the concept of delay, like that specific unit or other specific units. Right. Like not necessarily delay, but when I was at Thomas Heckman's place, we used the Lexicon 480L, and it was like,
I've never used one in real life, I think.
Oh my God.
Oh wait, actually, yeah. now that the truth is, I barely ever used it, so I didn't get to appreciate it. But yeah, I worked at a studio that had one. It was very old, and it was on the desk, and I think it was like always set to the same setting, kind of. And then there were also at that studio, they also had a PCM 70 or something.
70 is beautiful sounding.
Yeah, that one was really good. That's the one we actually really used. The other thing was just like a client impressor or something, because people like to see the remote control for that or something.
Oh yeah, the Lark.
Yeah, exactly.
That's half the fun.
Yeah, I know. When really you realize it's just like 4 knobs on sliders, basically. It's like not anything ultra advanced, but...
I mean, it helps though. Like, I have the LXP 1 and 5, I believe, and I have the MRC control for them. It's the same thing, but for the lower end ones, and it changes everything.
I forget how it works right now, but it lets you pick how much reverb builds up like on the lows or something. It's got like a few shaping things that really, it's not just EQ, it controls how much of the reverb builds up or how long the decay is for the lows and
It's
the
a lot of
highs.
different parameters.
Yeah.
Elise just actually made this little box called the Wedge that is kind of a Lark, but it's like their quadriverb algorithm with the sliders on it. I had it for a minute, and I sold it, but it was cool.
I guess the point of the Lark is that you're in the listening position where you can really hear what's going on, you know, like hunched over like a rack somewhere. So you're like in your sweet spot, and you get to dial in the reverb so it like really fits with whatever you're working on. So kind of goes back to the idea also that like dedicated hardware boxes, they think of a lot of things that you just can't get into a plugin sometimes.
Yeah, I can't, I don't know, it's so much more magical this way, you know?
Oh, you don't like being limited by the mouse? Like where you can only click on one thing at a time and you have to like drag everywhere?
Oh my god, I'll hang myself.
Yeah,
So
I actually have I don't know, I think we talked about this maybe a long time ago, but I've had surgery on my elbow and wrist on my right arm, and I'm kind of due surgery on my left arm, but it's like, it comes and goes. But yeah, I have carpal tunnel and cubital tunnel.
Fuck.
And it's really funny because being a musician, you know, playing piano and guitar and obviously all this other stuff, the great thing about outboard synths and sequencers and everything is, the truth is they tend to be actually surprisingly ergonomic. It's way better than the computer, is what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, sitting like that is a nightmare.
Yeah, and it tends to sound better, generally speaking, all of it, you know, whatever. And it's more fun, so I'm not mad, is the truth. I'm not mad at all. I just wish everybody could have access to like more outboard, because it is a lot of fun, but it's also like it takes up a bunch of space. You have to maintain it in some weird way or other.
I'm okay with all that.
Yeah.
You know, that's the price you pay for that kind of elimination.
Yeah. It's not bad. It's not bad.
I don't know, I can't vibe with the computer. Sorry, guys. Even though I've coded, like, not coded, but designed presets for a bunch of VSTs and all.
Yeah.
I don't really use them. Like, here and there, on overdub, but I don't know.
But it's hard, right?
It's not the first thing I reach for. It's not fun. Even synths with software editors, I don't like doing that. Not at all.
Yeah, I never messed with because a lot of hardware synths have like librarian apps or whatever. I never fully understood the point.
Fuck all that.
Because I actually like just using the bank and just adding presets while I make them. Yeah. The idea of me going to the computer when I already have the dedicated device is kind of funny, but I guess some people want to organize them and like move them around and share them. I guess that's kind of where it comes in, maybe. But
yeah, I'll tell you what. I used the Virus librarian to archive all the patches from my first Virus TI, and when I got the second one, like a couple years back, I went to look for those and I completely lost that file. So I lost like, I don't know, 300 patches.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was curious because, you know, I made those in my 20s. I don't remember what they sounded like. What was I into then? What was I doing?
Oh, that would have been so cool. Yeah. That would have been so cool for you to hear it. The old Virus, did it just use SysX or whatever?
No, I had a TI Polar and I got rid of it.
Oh, so you plug it in USB and it has the Librarian app or something. Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, but then now I just have the desktop TI. Mm-hmm. Although I miss the Polar sometimes, it was so beautiful. So I mean, you have it here. You know how it is. It's like
the Polar. It's a really, really fancy synth. The thing I actually like about it the most, it's the main key bed I use. That's why it's always next to like the computer or whatever. Mm-hmm. I just love the way it feels. I think it's Fatar makes the key bed.
Totally, it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's actually my favorite thing about it. Funny enough, but I'm just so familiar with it at this point. I like the effects. I like everything on it. There's nothing that sounds bad on it. There's some stuff that sounds a little cheesy and whatever, but it's a great synth.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's the deepest thing ever. Buy a virus, everyone. We've done free advertising for an hour now.
No, it's true. I think it's and we're starting to see it more and more with a lot of different types of devices, like even this thing. I'll just unplug it so I can show.
Does SE Mark II have anything to do with the name of that?
No, it doesn't. What really happened was I wrote a track. Oh yeah, I'm so dumb. I was looking at it, not showing it. But yeah, this is the SE02. I guess SE for Studio Electronics.
Yeah.
Yeah. They did it in partnership with Roland. This thing sounds amazing, but yeah, no, like specifically the song SC Mark II, it's gonna sound really hilarious, but the truth is so all my tracks I usually so there's a lot there, but so for instance, I don't like giving names to songs because for me, words are like way too intense. So I tend to name my songs just with like letters or something that's unpronounceable or that kind of thing. Even the name Oud, I like it because it comes from Arabic for wooden or wood-like, and it doesn't have any load or anything attached to it, or I feel pretty good about that. And so yeah, so SC Mark II was literally because I had a session that I started where I literally just made a few sounds, and I was doing like some sound design, and I recorded I was making drum samples and stuff or whatever, and then I opened up a new session to use those sounds in, and I called it SE Mark II.
What was the SE?
It doesn't stand for anything, is the truth.
Okay.
And that's by design.
It's a very wooden response.
Yeah, I guess so, right? No, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
It's just, it's funny because, I just like being free of those things when possible, which is also why I don't have words in my music, because I want it to be universal in a sense, if possible. Yeah. I like the idea of music being universal. And speaking of that, I think this is a universally good synth. I actually really love this synth a lot. I really love the basses I get out of it and some other stuff.
I mean, it's a minimal clone, right?
Yeah, but it has its own sound character, and I like it more than anything, or at least more than all the Moog devices people generally think of. I like it more than those. Mm-hmm. And it's just crazy because it's got all these little knobs and it's like kind of fidgety, but it sounds amazing. Like they crushed it with this thing. So yeah, the reason why I thought about it though and why I reached for it is because there's a lot of, I guess it's just the natural progression of things, but a lot of people are messing with a lot of weird cross modulation of like unexpected things that you wouldn't normally think can drive each other in really cool ways. And the virus, the reason why it never gets old is because the modulation matrix on it, they were really, I don't know if any other synth, also because they're digital, they can do this so much easier, but I don't think that's so common where like an all-in-one type package, even though this has some CV IO, but yeah, it's not common to have like really interesting modulation matrix or like some stuff, because on the virus, I'm just thinking about it, you can literally pretty much connect anything to anything on there, and that's just amazing because you'll never run out of stuff.
That's definitely the best feature of it. I mean, that kind of approach started with the Oberheim expander, Matrix 12, but not every synth has done it, definitely. And I mean, not even like the analog keys really does that.
No, not really.
There's no modulation matrix.
There's like, you got like a couple LFOs.
And I mean, there's built-in modulation for amplitude and stuff, but it's not the same.
It doesn't fit into that paradigm because you can create so many interesting textures and timbres with the mod matrix that you can't get that when you don't have that as a truth, unless you go modular. And now you're plugging stuff into all kinds of stuff.
I mean, I'll say that's a big secret of mine, is that I start with the modulation first. Like, I know I want to use X or Y oscillator, and I just plug every jack with a different LFO, and then I start making my sequence and my sound, because when shit is going crazy with the modulation, like, the sound will be completely in another place other than, like, X or Y bass sound. And I do the same thing with the Virus. I do the same thing when I'm programming presets on synths. I always go with the modulation first, and that to me is how you get the most unique sounds.
Yeah, no. And the only thing that's frustrating about it when you set up those complex patches and stuff, especially if you're using more than one box for whatever reason, you kind of like just have to roll with it. There's no way to save these things sometimes.
That's the best part, though. Like, if you don't capture the moment, it's gone forever.
Yeah.
All these tears lost in the rain. Time to detach.
Yeah, it's the same way, like, when people DJ out without having planned anything, and then things just really come together and it's amazing.
Why plan anything at all?
Yeah, exactly.
Life is unplanned.
Exactly.
Music should be too.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, anytime that's actually why being routine about making music and like making music all the time, it kind of helps, because then everything is sort of unplanned when you're in more of like a routine, and that's pretty freeing also when you get into a group where you're making music every day.
Definitely. There are times when, like, I have in my head, like, I want to make a dark, heavy track at 160 BPM, and it completely doesn't happen.
Yeah. Oh no, exactly. That's not a thing. Yeah. It's just not.
But if I show up and I'm like, I'm just gonna roll with it, something always comes out. Maybe I'm not happy with it at the end of the day, but it happened.
Yeah, and it's something. Yeah.
And I might listen to it again in 3 months and be like, oh, that was actually cool. I can use that. Done that a few times.
It's funny because being able to just make music by the mile, as I call it, that's like its own weird skill. But like people that will go in and like write dozens of cues every day for like TV or something, right? But it's funny because the kind of music we seem to all be into, it's so much about, like, you have like some technical aspects to it, then you have like kind of what's going on, like really big picture, and like you learn that from talking to other people or listening to their music, and then you've also just got just like all these little bits, but all in equal parts of like musicianship, and then the gear, and then being creative with the equipment. It's like, it's very weird. It's not like other kinds of music, because other kinds of music, they benefit from a lot more immediacy and portability. Like when you write a song on an acoustic guitar, you're going to be able to easily play that on piano or something. It's going to be a familiar sound for most people. Most people are going to understand it more easily. There's a lot more immediacy there. The guitar is something also you just pick up. We're like in the most pain in the neck genre is what we're doing in some weird ways. But I wouldn't change anything about it either. So it's just like, what draws us to making music this way? Is it just like the sounds? Is it really? Because, like, why don't you just use a guitar to make music and not touch anything else? It's kind of like a funny question.
Well, first reason is because I'm a shitty guitarist. But the second reason is because I don't find it the pain in the neck way. Like, think about, okay, you can, write a song on a guitar. Yeah. You can pick up your guitar and play right away, but it's hard to write a song. you know, it's not going to come immediately. It takes a lot of time.
Sure.
Verse, chorus, verse, whatever. The melodies, the middle eight, and like, probably for a really, you know, amazing song, it takes the same amount of time as a really amazing track. Especially if you're well disciplined and can work fast. Like, you know, I can get a track done in 3 hours.
Yeah, of course.
It's that you could probably write a song in 3 hours.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, and in the case of like the immediacy of guitar, I would say someone like Soma Lab is making it.
I don't know who that is. I'm curious.
Okay, it's like the Lyra 8. You know the one, the drone synthesizer.
No,
you don't know
the Lyra
Soma?
8. I'd have to look that up.
Okay,
No.
Soma is all about like breaking the conventions of control with synthesis. So he has synthesizers that just have like touch plates that when you touch a couple of them, the sound.
Oh, is it the one with gold on black? Wait, are you talking about a modular synth?
That's Make Noise does that, what you're talking about?
Oh, I know which one you're talking. Yeah, okay.
But Soma is something else.
Got you.
Similar concepts.
Got you.
Just he's about directly interfacing with the instruments and performance.
Okay.
So like they don't have MIDI, they don't really have sequencing. Some do, or like he has a drum machine that only has a looper. It doesn't have a sequencer, an audio looper. Yeah.
that's so cool. So everything's kind of additive unless you wipe.
I don't have it. I can't speak for exactly.
I'm imagining that sounds cool though. I kind of like those constraints though. That's interesting.
I mean, this drum machine, the Pulsar 23, is a massive hit. Like everyone and their mother wants it or got it. So it spoke to people, this kind of primitive approach, and I used it most recently at a friend's, and I was pretty blown away by it. So, you know, it's one to. You know, but it's another like $2,000 device. So,
Why does everything good cost $2,000?
Right, you get what you pay for, I guess.
No, it's funny. Well, actually, this thing's not $2,000, and it's really formidable. It's actually
awesome.
This is a great thing.
We've used this. Sarah and I have used this a lot on Concourse material because he has one, and it sounds great.
That's cool. I didn't know he had one.
Also live. Yeah.
It's great. It's actually great. Oh, and even for live, I could see that this could work for live and you could switch patches and everything. Like it would even work in that context. Yeah, it's a surprise. Yeah, I was just really, it's funny because when I first got it, I was like, if I don't like it, I'll just return it because I did buy this one new. And then I was like, I'm actually going to keep this. I'm always really skeptical when I get gear. Like it takes me a while to feel like I'm really going to use it for a long time. I'm always open to the idea that I might just sell something.
No, don't do that too much. I've sold some regretful stuff, like a Metasonic scratch machine.
Oh no!
Yeah, like big time heart pain with those. Poly Evolver.
Oh yeah, why'd you sell the Poly Evolver?
Okay, well I got gypped actually. I'm not placing blame on anyone, but when the Pro 2 came out, it looked to me to be like the next version, and it wasn't really. It was something else. So I sold my Poly Evolver, got a Pro 2, and then I sold my Pro 2 almost immediately because I didn't like it, and I was moving to Berlin. So it was like I really just sold my Poly Evolver.
The Pro 2 is really solid though. It's funny because a really good friend of ours, M7, we used the Pro 2 for a while. And by we, I mean also Elizabeth Virgo. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. And then he ended up with it, and all his tracks are amazing. And he basically just uses Pro 2. And he's shown me some of the patches and things he's made, and they're brilliant. I just hadn't wrapped my arms around it, I guess.
I mean, I've come to appreciate the Pro 2 and the Prophet 12 because I think they're really cool synths on their own, but the Evolver itself just has this nasty vibe that I think it got a little refined from the Pro 2, you know what I mean? It's a little more clean. The Evolver is, you turn the output hack and it's on the end. And the Pro 2 doesn't even have that. It has hack before the filter. But here you could just crank it at the end and completely blow your speakers. And not that I need to do that, but that the noise.
Have you ever had, speaking of that, have you ever had a synth pump out like a bottom octave like tone and like wreck your speakers?
I had a kick drum blow my monitors once.
Yeah. So that kind of thing's happened to everybody, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had some Dynaudios years ago that this very virus right here rocked completely. Nice. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, it's crazy because you don't realize, but yeah, it can put out some really, really low stuff. And sometimes, depending on the speakers you have, you might not even hear that low stuff. But it's moving the speaker like crazy.
Oh, totally. I've noticed that in clubs, like a couple tracks of mine, when I used to have Atom A7s, A8s now.
Yeah.
And they have, they go down to like 38 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
The A7s were only like 46 or something.
Sure.
A couple tracks of mine, specifically the one called Body Artifacts. I remember the first time I heard it in the club, it had like this incredible sub bass that I didn't know was even there when I made it, and I was like, whoa, this is almost too much. Like,
that's another thing about most outboard boxes, and maybe just the nature of going through multiple analog stages and all this stuff. That like bottom octave, it's a lot easier to get it right with outboard gear for some weird reason. Where like even if you can't hear it sometimes on most boxes you can trust it. Mm-hmm. But like when you're in the computer, you get a lot more like weird warts and like undesirable bits and ends and digititis and other like ailments.
Yeah, fuck all that.
Yeah, you don't get that with the outboard stuff. And that isn't even, and the outboard stuff can have a digital heart even, but for some reason, I guess they just think about it, they spend a lot of time, and they're like, we gotta make sure that the sound that comes out of this is good or something, because that doesn't really happen with plugins, I guess. Although there are some amazing plugins I use, of course, but yeah.
I mean, I definitely think that they care about the sound quality when making plugins.
Yeah.
But I think what I experience in a lot of new music, because old music is all recorded imperfectly, like up until the end of the 90s, really, when computer recording took over, like, the sound was a lot of times dependent on your budget. You couldn't clean it all up in the computer. And now I think the computer makes it so easy to record. Everything can be mixed and done perfectly that it's like there's a lot of character loss. And also, people listening now don't even know that there's character missing because this is all they hear. So there's a lot of just ultra clean stuff.
It's like I was telling you that the other day I was listening to David Bowie and I was shocked. The vocals were out of key and like everything was rushing and dragging a little bit, but it's David Bowie. It's amazing. It's just funny because it's the kind of stuff that if you do it now, well, you wouldn't even do it now because most people are on a computer screen with a grid. So, and then if they hear, God forbid, they hear any one little thing, like out of key or something, or like pulling it in, or they're slapping something on it, or they're like, yeah, that's another thing that I miss sometimes. Is with outboard stuff that you have to mess with the calibration a little bit. It's so easy for it to go off pitch, but it creates it's so nice sometimes for things to be like kind of out of tune, especially when you've got like 4 layers. It's okay for a couple of those things to be slightly out of tune. It makes it sound all bigger. But in the computer, that doesn't naturally happen. Like all that stuff isn't like a part of the equation, really.
No, definitely not. Out of tune. Also, I would say out of time.
Yeah, of course.
Like I feel, every copy of Ableton has the same exact timing, but every different hardware sequencer grooves in a slightly different way. So it's like having 2 different drummers, and that's why like old techno with the real 909 just has a certain aggression to it.
Yeah,
of the way the 909 is.
I use in live. I have to use whenever I do sequence stuff there. I have to use the, a lot of stuff I play in. I do play it in. And then
play in and don't quantize.
Well, I manually nudge stuff if I have to, but I will not quantize because that's super dangerous.
Yeah.
What is it, Command U or whatever? Like,
fuck that.
Yeah, like, and for me, I have the bad luck where like, it's like, Ableton Live did something nice where they try to make it so you don't have to think about what quantization, division you're on or whatever, but like whatever it always does what I'm not expecting it to do. So it's never that much work just to nudge the notes that catch your ear, is it? And then you get to keep the good ones. So
exactly. Yeah, it's performance is a huge aspect. So anything to preserve the performance is the key to the music. And there's something intangible that I can just hear, like when something, maybe I'm bullshitting myself, but I can hear when, like, I just have this feeling like this was performed in some way, or this was edited on a grid some way, and I don't know.
Oh no, of course you hear that.
Yeah.
Oh no, that for 100%.
Yeah.
Like the most offensive weird ones are like when you can hear it with someone in Pro Tools, like Beat Grid or whatever the heck they use, or Beat Doctor or whatever, and like they're like obsessing over the way it looks, and they're nudging everything to the line. I don't know why people think that has anything to do with anything sounding good, but a lot of people do that. I mean, that's another thing about being on the computer, is you can get overwhelmed with the information through the screen, and it can start to make you think like, oh, like this is off, or I have to do this, or I have to do that. Very dangerous. Yeah,
this is why I never look at those meters. Like,
well, your ears will tell you if something's going wrong.
Right? Like, does it sound good? Okay, we're good. That should be it.
They will tell you. They will tell you if something's going wrong. Don't worry.
I mean, I used to, a friend of mine got me into the idea of like finding resonances within your sound that are, you know, resonating, and then cutting them out. And I tried it a couple times, and I was like, that's all the vibe, you know? Like, why remove it?
Yeah, it's funny because I remember, it's actually a funny memory, but this has happened dozens of times, but it just reminded me of a good friend of mine, Justin Moshkovich, a brilliant producer and engineer. And I was with him one time at his studio in Los Angeles, and we were mixing a song together. We were like hanging out and mixing a song together. And yeah, I remember like we had that moment, which it always comes back every couple of years. Because you know how it is, like you spend a lot of time, like you'll over notch stuff out, or you'll get obsessed with like boosting a little bit here, removing a little bit there, and then you start to learn like all the different frequencies, and then time passes, and now you're just like, you do whatever you got to do now. It's not like you're learning like, oh my god, I can add highs to stuff for the first time anymore. But yeah, I remember we were mixing a song, and we look at each other at one moment, and he's like, yo, hold on one sec, and then he takes out like the EQ, and he's like, it sounds so much better this way. And it's funny because it was like resonant, murky, like woolly, whatever, but like even just removing a little bit, it like killed the track.
Yeah, it's weird how that works,
because yeah, you can make it so it looks like a perfect like pink noise like curve where it's like all nice and bubbly and smooth with no weird resonances. But yeah, when you start, that's another one, when people start to do that, especially visually, super dangerous.
Yeah, don't mix visually, guys.
Oh no, that reminds me of I will never name this stuff, but like someone had worked on a course or something, and they were teaching people to mix music, where basically like they would set up a meter, like what I'm talking about, and like, you have to figure everything out, and then you have like the pink noise curve or whatever, and then you have to work on everything so that everything's under the line or something. Yeah, like that's super dangerous, right? But that's the other thing. Computers open up this possibility to have so many instances of equalizers and stuff. It's like stuff you never think about when you're working in an outboard type environment. And if you're working with cool synths and gear you know well, why would you have to do all that EQing anyway?
Yeah, I always think of like, okay, your favorite record from 1995.
They did not have 10 EQs on it.
Yeah, they had, you know, your recording desk, and there were maybe 5 bands on the EQ, and that was it. And if you couldn't get it right in 5 bands, well, you were fucked.
Yeah,
you don't need to go.
And the bands were like not even like super like ultra parametric or something. They were like, do you want more lows, less lows?
Yeah.
Do you want more low mids or less low mids? Like, and it was enough. It really was enough usually.
The middle was always parametric, and that's it. High.
Yeah, exactly.
Fixed frequency. That's. I feel like that's just the way.
Yeah.
If you can't do it right that way, then you shouldn't be doing it at all.
Speaking of all that, I don't know if you ever, like, how much you mess with DJ mixers lately, but I really love the Model 1, and that's the approach they took. It's It's a high pass, a low pass, and a parametric mid.
That's all you need.
And it's great.
Yeah. I don't mess with DJ mixers much, but in a return to live performance, eventually I had considered using one because a couple friends do it that way, and it seems quite interesting.
Yeah.
And geared for performance because you got the effects in and the
exactly. DJ mixers are actually, there's a surprising amount of innovation in them actually, because people use them for performance, so that just makes things a lot more exciting, I guess. But yeah, stuff like the Model 1 or even the Pioneer mixers, like, they're actually pretty cool.
I mean, I love the Pioneer mixer more than Allen and Heath. Like, I love using the effects, everything on that.
No, it's fun. Yeah.
DJ mixers. Oh, I'd love to play live again.
Live. Yeah, I was going to say earlier, it's funny because live and all those things, it's funny. So, like, right now we're here in person, right? And we're talking to each other. But it's funny because live is kind of like that, where you're there in person. It's not necessary, but it does add something, and you get that really nice feedback loop that goes back in a certain way, whether we like it or not. Sometimes it goes back into the music, because you get to play the music you make, and then you see that how it's working, and then it goes back into everything, and that might change the next song you produce, right? The next track you do. So it's interesting because I wonder if during COVID it's broken down a part of that, like, conversation in music, like that part of, like, the whole, like, game of how music evolves. A really interesting thing that I don't know if either of us would have the easy answer to. I wonder if there's been more or less releases overall, or if it's still the same.
I have no idea, truthfully.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree with you that there's some influence that has been lost, because I know for myself, like, I've made some ideas or just created some sequences live, and that I've been like, this is incredible right now in this moment. Like, the hype is out of control. I need to somehow, like, translate this into the
do this more. Yeah.
So that definitely is a real thing. And I need more of that. I would like to have some of that back.
Because you only really get that in a live context.
There's only one way.
Yeah,
like, for example, my track Body Artifacts. I made the main sequence in that track. I was playing at the Gegen party at KK Club in Berlin. So I just was putting together a couple sequences in the octa track and that one and the drums, and I was like, it's kind of cool. And then I played it live that night, and it was like the best moment of the set, and I was like, whoa. And so the next day I was like, all right, this is my next track I'm recording exactly that way, and tried to sort of remember what happened.
That's cool.
Yeah. Because in the studio I didn't know how massive it was going to sound, but then, like, you're in the club and it's destructive, and you're like, oh my god, okay.
Oh, another thing that's nice about playing live or whatever, you kind of, well, in my case, I think you end up remembering that less is more in a weird way, because you don't need like 20 tracks or 20 layers of sound to, like, impress anybody.
Oh yeah, I always keep it bare, like, one or two sounds at once and the drums.
Yeah, and that gets you so far, and live reminds you of that, because what ends up translating really well over all these systems is, like, something on the bottom, something in the middle, something on the top. Like, you don't need, like, a lot, and then the drums for your transients, right, or whatever. But
I also just love the ability of live to, like, warp your track, like, in the sense that, I'll program in the sequences, the drum pattern, the samples and everything, and then when I'm playing live, I'll be like, we're playing it at 140 today, and we're gonna just play it really hard. Oh, I'll put in a drum fill here, I'll not, I'll close the filter or do whatever, and it completely morphs, and it's, like, only gonna happen once.
Yeah, speaking of BPM, yeah, someone had sent me, it was actually incredibly cool, but Paula Temple played one of my tracks back in one of her sets, but at a crazy fast BPM, like something crazy, like, I don't know, like very fast, like something way faster than I would ever play. And it was so cool because the whole thing changes in a way. We forget sometimes how important tempo is because people tend to like kind of stick to a tempo for years at a time right now. But yeah, I had a music teacher when I was a kid where he started playing the Super Mario song like really slow, and then you realize there's no way to figure out what song it is until you play it at the correct tempo, kind of, especially for a kid, right? And then that's when I started realizing a long time ago that tempo is so important. Yeah, it can change everything. Like you can play back the same piece of music 10 BPM faster or slower, and it changes everything. And then also live right now, depending on the context of the set and the night and all this stuff, I don't know, what are you seeing people like play at? Because I see a lot of people going really hard, like Virgo or our friend M7, they play like 140 something always, and they go super hard, but it's also very musical. I can't DJ like at these crazy BPMs and keep like my sense of musicality, so yeah, I don't know what people expect, or are we always going back somewhere towards like 120 at the end of the day, and it's just all like different moments otherwise? I don't know.
With me, like, you know, I like techno to be in a certain range, because if I go fast, then I want to do like, all right, let's do breakcore, you know, 170. Why do we have to stay in the middle? Why can't we go faster? But I definitely think that things right now are in this kind of 140, 160-ish range of hyper fast. And, you know, people need to rock that hard right now. They need to rock that hard now. It's going to go that way for a while. I made a couple tracks at 140. And to add to your previous story, my track New Ways to Pray from my album Reconstitution, it's at 140-ish, I think. And Face Fatale put it in a mix, but slowed down to like 128.
And you were like, whoa.
I didn't recognize it. So I was like, yo, this is creepy. What is this? And then I realized it was me. And I was like, whoa.
That's cool.
Yeah,
and actually, I just realized, talking about this like BPM bending thing of like wildly different tempos with the same program or source material, Paula Temple on her album from a few years ago, there was one song that she released in two form, like it's on the same album, and one is, I think it's actually like the parenthetical is techno version, and then the other one is slow version. I hope I'm not getting that wrong, but it's really funny because it's the same song, just two different BPMs, but it completely changes the song. It's a different song. It ends up deserving its own slot on the album, which is hilarious if you think about it, because yeah.
I once, in like one of my earliest albums, this one called Tension Strategies, I exported a version of this song I was working on, and somehow there was like a sample rate error, and it stretched to like a 12-minute.
Oh, that happened to me once also, where I played back a 96K mix at 44.1 or something, and it sounded amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible. I should find it because I never did anything with it, but I was like, oh, this is better than the original. It's like, you know, like,
no, and they sound so emotional.
Yeah,
no, I definitely think about that sometimes. What was that? I forgot the name right now. Very old plugin. It had a really silly UI. It might have had like a little swirl. It was a pack of like, I think they were free or really cheap plugins.
Beta Bugs, Crayon Filter, Chorus.
That sounds like it. Yeah.
Maybe? I don't know.
Sounds like it. They had one that would like stretch sounds out also. And then there was also a standalone one as well.
Is it like Deep Blue Glitch or something? Or
that sounds familiar. I'm not sure now. But these are like really old ones. Very old.
Yeah, I mean, the ones I'm thinking of are like 32-bit type of things. I know one of these ones, I can't remember what they were called, but just got released again for 64-bit. One of these old packs. I saw all the IDM dudes posting about it, like, yo!
Oh, I loved all those old things.
Yeah. I wish I could remember the name.
Yeah, I loved all those old plugins. Yeah, it's funny, like, talking again about something like Vanguard or whatever, like, these old plugins, I connect with those sounds.
Vintage plugins are the new thing, guys.
Oh no!
Windows 98 PCs.
No, but the new stuff sounds really good and clean.
It's too good.
I know why though. There's a programmer that is like, they see all the different types of modulation and distortion as like things that need to be solved.
Yes.
And then they're also using certain frameworks like Juice, or I don't know if you know about these like different frameworks for making plugins and stuff.
I've heard the names. Yeah.
Yeah, JUCE. It's
right.
like it's a framework. You basically make your plugin, and it gives you a library of things to put together, and it's like a very nice toolkit for like audio plugin programmer. But yeah, all these things. I'm imagining if you're going to make a toolkit for programmers to use or whatever, or if you're going to err on the side of caution, you're going to go for clean, right? You're going to go on clean. And the truth is, when you have stuff that's kind of like has all that nice like crust on it and stuff, that doesn't sound good with everything. I guess it just so happens that I like the old kind of broken plugins is the truth. Ooh, yeah, you know about DAD plugins?
No.
It's a Spanish company.
DAD plugins?
Yeah. D, I don't know, I forgot what it stands for. But it might be...
call it daddy plugins.
Actually, I have a theory. D16, Daddy says. D16 in French, I think it sounds like daddy says. That's my theory.
Dude, these are big brain thoughts here.
I think dad plugins from Spain, which by the way, they were like popular on old Pro Tools TDM, like super like 1997 type things. They sound really good though.
I'm with you though about the errors and digital being too perfect, because I really like makers like Gotherman, who I brought his thing over.
Yeah, I'm shocked by that thing, by the way. That thing's super cool.
Noise engineering, industrial music, electronics, it's dirty digital. Like, they understand that people like when it sounds fucked up. And
I think it's way harder as a designer, programmer, developer to make that. That's like way harder, because now, maybe making clean nowadays might be actually like a little, not that I'm saying it's better or worse, it's just easier. And then in most use cases, I guess people don't want all the distortion, go figure. But yeah, the Gotherman thing, like I'm freaking out. What's the box called again?
The Little Deformer 3.
A Little Deformer 3?
Yeah.
That thing's crazy because it goes, it doesn't matter if it's digital or analog or whatever, like it's just amazing. And the way that thing's made, and then the way it's concepted, designed, and programmed is crazy, because, it's nuts. Like, that thing's actually insane.
Well, this is what I'm talking about. I believe a lot of devices provide you a curated experience. And what I mean by that is that, like, the filter only opens a certain amount, the effects parameters only go to X or Y.
I like that.
It's like you can't make them sound bad, whereas something like the Evolver, you can make it sound horrible. And he's not afraid to let you go there. Same with the Gotherman, same with noise engineering or industrial music electronics. I think that free-spiritedness is what they know, that if you turn it this way, it's going to sound terrible, but they allow you to do it.
Yeah, it's funny because I like the curated thing, but then it's funny. It's a very like tough thing to work around, because like if you're too curated, then you're basically a preset box also. But then if you're too crazy, then you're like an insane sound design machine that most people are not going to be able to dig into. Or if you're like me, it might take you like a couple weeks to start to get somewhere like you're really happy. Because a lot of it's experimentation, like raw, for me, like raw, tough experimentation. And then you discover these things that some of these boxes can do really well that you didn't even expect. And then you get inspired by that. But yeah, like the Evolver, the presets that come with it are so horrible, you have to learn how to use this thing, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, I just like that better. If it requires more patience, like, there are tools for users who just want things fast, and there are tools for people who are willing to put in the time, and I appreciate the ones like those, you know?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I want the reward of digging in deep and finding all the little corners where craziness happens.
Speaking of like a good balance of stuff though, this one, where you might be like, oh, I just want to be able to make like a lead sound with like whatever, like you can pull that up instantly on this thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a place for that too, and oftentimes like if I'm just doing like a melodic thing, I don't really touch my modular because I could just play a keyboard.
Right.
Like why even?
But it's interesting because then they also give you just enough extra options. And like even something as like silly as it seems, but like the little built-in delay is actually really decent. And
well, Studio Electronics don't play around; they're top quality. So
yeah, but it's a really nice balance of stuff. I've barely used the CV. Like I haven't used it on any actual production, but I have hooked it up to like my micro brute a bit. My brain usually doesn't go directly to like having like long CV cables, like patching stuff across the room. But I want to get more into that, and I definitely want to get into modular at some point finally this year. I've always held off on it.
be careful.
Yeah, I know, that's the problem. I feel like I know better, you know?
But do you know better? Because it's also the most fun, in my case at least.
Yeah.
Like, I have such satisfaction from just sitting there and creating a patch and like bringing it to its conclusion. Like,
yeah,
it feels like nothing else.
No, I believe that. I mean, I've always been amazed when I mess with other people's like modular setups that aren't even my own, and it's just like you're like on a crazy playground, and yeah, you'll always come up with something incredibly interesting. It's kind of hard not to.
As an extension of that, I like watching people on my modular.
Oh, that's so cool.
Like, I had Christy from Orfix over a couple times, and every time she patches my system, she makes sounds I never heard before, and I'm like, oh, but I've been using this for 10 years, you know? Like,
that's cool.
Yeah, she's a master, speaking of someone who's incredible.
Yeah.
She's got super high skills, so yeah, I always like look over her shoulder, like, what is she doing? Okay, I'm gonna do it later.
Yeah, and then the other half of Orfix is, I forget their name. Yeah.
Real homies of mine. Also, another one that did that to me was Basek. He showed me a cool patch on a module I've been using for a long time I never thought of. I was like, fuck, man. I don't use these well enough, you know? Yeah,
no, because, I mean, just like there are notes on the keyboard and there's rhythm and everything, you can sit down and come up with so many different, like, note combinations, and then this actually has more, I dare say it has more permutations and possibilities, especially when you start to combine devices, obviously. I guess maybe that's part of the reason why we're so drawn to like carefully made equipment, is just because it adds so many more possibilities and it's just more stimulating.
Yes.
Kind of weird, right? To be so like, we were talking about it the other day, but yeah, I always feel like the equipment's not important at all, but then you realize that you kind of need it at the same time, so it is actually really important, but it's not, but it is. And it's that weird, it's both things at the same time.
Well, I think there's a misconception in that, like, you know, the common thing of like, oh, you could just do it all with a laptop. Like, sure you could, but it is one of the most powerful devices in existence right now, running, you know, incredibly specialized software that is in effect equipment. That is your equipment, your choice of equipment. You know, it's not any different than your DFAM there or this. Yeah. So the electronic box, if you use a laptop, it still has an interface.
Well, I can tell you that nothing in the computer sounds like the DFAM, though.
Definitely nothing. Yeah.
Which is weird, because you should feel like it's an input, it's an output, it's got a few parameters. They should be able to do that, but like they haven't yet, which is very odd to me.
Well, because these devices are imperfect. Also, code is imperfect, but it's so hard to replicate something and then also to replicate the imperfections. Forget it. Like, yeah, I don't think it's worth it. Like, I've seen this in threads about like using vintage samplers. Like, oh, well, you know, I can do it if I just do this with Reason or whatever. And it's like, yeah, you could, but if I have the old sampler, it already sounds that way.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of embarrassing. Yeah. How like the second they want to research and sample and convolution and like impulse responses and all these things to try to mimic an old piece of gear, and then yeah, like there's been some stuff that actually sounds quite good. What's this? I forget the name right now. The one that uses convolution that they sample a bunch of different positions on gear.
I don't actually know. You mean like Altiverb?
No, not Altiverb.
They do sample like old reverb units.
Yeah, no, I know. And yeah, Altiverb uses convolution for reverb, but no, I'm talking about for EQs and other things.
Oh, I mean, there's the Kemper profiling app.
Well, I actually have no idea how the Kemper works, but does it use
convolution?
It uses convolution.
That's the newest thing in guitar, convolution. Yeah.
Makes sense, sort of, kind of.
Yeah.
But specifically for guitar, I can kind of see why it makes sense, actually. But no, I'm talking about. Trying to remember the name. I believe it's an Italian company. They make plugins. They're very RAM heavy. They're very CPU heavy. Super impractical, but they do sound really good. And what they do. Can't believe I can't remember the name. I'm not even recommending the plugins anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter the name, but...
Yeah, they're not paying you to advertise.
Hello, right? No. It's just, the reason why I couldn't recommend it to anyone, even though they sound really phenomenal, is because, so the way the plugin works, I can't believe I don't remember the name right now, but basically they take snapshots, impulse responses on the equipment in like every position, and like everything like basically like snaps to positions, like it's not like smooth dials. And
but it's sample packs.
Well, on the back end, it's a plugin, but
is it like
you open one? Say again?
Is it like a contact instrument?
No. It's impulse response and it's convolution based. But for audio processing, and so you can get like. I don't know, like as a weird example, like an SSL bus compressor or whatever, and it has they've recorded the impulse responses, and then when you turn the knobs, like every time you change the knob, it loads into RAM the new response, and like everything's really laggy and stuff. It's like, it's not a pleasant experience at all, but it sounds pretty good, which reminds me that maybe computers are more limited than we think sometimes also still, because most of these synths, they can pump out really complex, close to pure waves and stuff. Like the computer, it's not there yet. There's still a lot of corners that people cut and stuff. Like you hear it even with like digital EQs or compressors, or I don't know if you've heard like not knocking on Massive at all, nor Silent, but like OG Massive or Silent, it's more obvious that it has a certain sound. I call it don't get me wrong, because there's people that have made like amazing stuff and I'm like, really? That's actually Massive? But to me, out of the box, it always sounds, I hate to use this term because it's really kind of lame and there's going to be people that make really cool stuff with it. But to me, for like what I'm trying to get out of it and what I want for my own music, it sounds plasticky. A lot of stuff in the computer sounds plasticky, which aches me to say that because it's not all plugins, and I do use a lot of plugins, but like, damn, outboard, I never have that problem. That's the thing. That's the thing that bothers me.
Yeah, again, I think that's a symptom of coding trying to be efficient and perfect. Whereas designing an instrument that people are going to touch hands on requires a bit more. Like you have to physically attempt to gel with the expression methods and see how it reacts to you. Like it's just not the same.
Damn it!
I don't know. I'm being a hater. I will be a hater till I die.
I don't even know what you're hating on though.
Software,
but not really, because
like it's
just got different qualities. I mean, I'll give you a funny example. This is such a bad example, but let's say you want to record the ultimate hi-fi classical recording. Digital recording and digital processing might actually be the best move in a lot of cases. If you're right.
Yes, but I'm thinking of something funny. You just made me think of. I've found an 80s issue of Keyboard Magazine. I had an interview with Gary Newman when he was recording whatever album, and it was when digital recording had just come out. and he's talking about, he's like, yeah, we tried re-recording a couple of the tracks with digital recording. I don't understand why anyone cares about this. It sounded the same to me.
That's actually really funny because like the digital converters at that time were like
awful. Yeah.
like a whole other level of bad, to the point where it was so bad that it was good because it could be used creatively for like drum sampling and all this other stuff, right?
Yeah.
But like the idea that he recorded it and was like, oh, it sounds the same, that's funny.
Yeah, that's actually, I don't see a reason to switch.
That's really good.
Yeah. How the times have changed, because also if you listen to Gary Newman's interviews, he's like, he hates all the old gear. He only wants to use new shit.
I mean...
He loves the Virus. That's his favorite synth.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It makes sense. I mean, think about it. When he was starting off, if he would have had something like the Virus, that would have been everything he ever wanted.
I mean, in a way, the Minimoog was.
I guess, yeah.
You know the story with him, right?
With what? With a Minimoog?
Like how he discovered synths?
No, I don't know.
They were just in the studio. He had his band was basically like punk rock, and there was a Minimoog in the studio, and he just went and pressed one key, and it was like, whatever sound it was really impressed him, and he was like, oh my God, this is everything now. And that's how you get Gary Newman.
Even the sound of turning on the Minimoog is amazing. Everything about the damn thing is amazing.
But I heard he doesn't like them now. Like, he's like, oh, I hate those things. So it's funny. I mean,
I have a weird... It's funny because I have a weird relationship with Moog stuff. Like a Minimoog, to me, I get it, but I just can't get excited about it anymore. And they sound amazing, but... It sounds too familiar for me now, is the truth.
I mean, it is used a lot.
Yeah.
And to that, and I would say...
But for a good reason, obviously.
To that, yes. And to that, I would say there are ways to use it creatively, and I think the key there is processing. Like, people who use a Minimoog, like, I'm going to make my, my Herbie Hancock funk bass with the Minimoog. And it's like, okay, but we heard that 30 years ago. But if you just do something a little different with it on the end, even, and it's a new thing.
Yeah, it is a great instrument. I mean, I think it goes back to not just the way it sounds, but also the immediacy of how everything's laid out. It's really easy to understand. It's very fun as a musician to use it.
I mean, there's a reason it's the Minimoog and not, whatever random synth.
Yeah.
And all those classics have something about them, like the MS-20, the Music Easel. There's just some intangible quality that they always provide inspiration, 80% of the time, I should say.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. It
speaks to the design more than anything.
When I go on the analog keys or analog rhythm, those are super easy. You can make a whole song inside of the analog rhythm with a lot of ease and get super inspired and be happy with the results. I actually have more difficulty focusing in live than on something like an Electron device, which is weird.
I'll tell you what, a couple friends of mine in LA threw an IDM party a few years back, and they had Richard Devine and Otto von Schirach and a couple of people, and Venetian Sears was supposed to play it, but he couldn't make it for whatever reason, so he sent them an analog rhythm that he had just programmed patterns in.
No.
They played that for his set.
I love it.
I would have loved to hear that. I mean, I saw him play live with the rhythm. It was him and Daniel Lanois, and it was incredible. But I would have loved to hear that, because what was going on in there? It had to be insane.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. That's what I love about these kinds of devices.
Yeah, I haven't spoken to Otto in a long time, but yeah, I think years ago he went crazy and he just bought a lot of classic stuff all in one go. I don't know if he's refreshed or has bothered buying new stuff lately. I'm so curious now.
I've seen he has a little modular. I heard he has a Yamaha CS40M or something.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if there's any truth to that. I don't know him very well. But I'd like to get him on here.
Oh yeah, you should. I don't know if you have his number or not, but I can give you his number.
Well, maybe. I mean, we've met before.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
He's a good human being. Very good guy.
But yeah, I grew up listening to his stuff, him, Divine, all the Schematic crew. That was my shit. So
Yeah, those Miami roots, yo.
yeah, and trying to bring it back, like it's still there. People need to know Schematic.
Schematic Records.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they have like all the releases up on a Bandcamp or something.
Yeah, I mean, I did.
I'm
an album for them
imagining
2
they
years
have
ago.
to, huh?
In 2019, I released an album with them. Like they're still around.
Oh, I remember that now. Yeah.
Fishers in the Megastructure.
Yeah, I forgot that was Schematic. I remember thinking that was hilarious and like super like full circle in a weird way. Yeah.
That's what it felt like. I was like, I'm coming home.
No, that's super cool.
Yeah. And then I just put out Phoenicia with new music on my thing. So again,
That's very full circle now. Yeah.
There's more stuff. Maybe we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, the Miami Connection's an interesting one. Most people don't have any association with Miami and music, but then you dive like a little bit deeper, and depending on the time period, Miami's had a few things.
Marilyn Manson came from here.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, we're here.
We're here right now.
Yeah, man. We've been going for like an hour 45. That's much longer.
Was there anything in specific you wanted to touch on? I don't know. What are you thinking?
No, it was perfect. I think it was perfect. I think we can
Cool.
wrap it up.
That's great.
Yeah. So thanks for coming on the show.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, Joey.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I'm really excited about this one. I think it'll be good. So
Awesome. Cheers.
So, hope you liked that. If you want to know who's coming up next on my podcast, you can do that by subscribing to my Patreon. Peace out.